disease in old age. Now we're too old to sit down on cross-legged. We're getting the Sakshat Darshan. Hare Krishna. So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 27, Understanding Material Nature, text number 26. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're still jet lagged. We forgot to sing Jai Radha Madhav. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Kisoranandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yasodanandana Vrajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Ijaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Sri Sri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Nityalila Vishwam Vishwapada Divine Grace Sila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON Samstapakacharya Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananda Guri Vaishnavrinda Ki Sadgoswami Prabhu Ki Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Go Shama Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhana Ki Brajabhumi Vrindavan Dham Ki Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Bolo Sri Sri Krishna Balaram Ki Dai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotee. All glories to the assembled devotee. All glories to the assembled devotee. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to you, Srila Prabhupada. Evam vidita-tattvasya prakṛtir mayi mānasam yuñjato nāpakuruta ātmārāmasya karhicit evaṁ vidita-tattvasya prakṛtir mayi mānasam yuñjato nāpakuruta ātmārāmasya karhicit evaṁ vidita-tattvasya prakṛtir mayi mānasam yuñjato nāpakuruta ātmārāmasya karhicit evaṁ vidita-tattvasya prakṛtir mayi mānasam yuñjato nāpakuruta ātmārāmasya karhicit Ladies? Evam, thus, vidita-tattvasya, to one who knows the absolute truth. Prakṛtir, material nature. Mayi, on me. Mānasam, the mind. Yuñjato, fixing. Not. Apakurute, can do harm. Ātmārāmasya, to one who rejoices in the self. Karhicit, at any time. Translation: the influence of material nature cannot harm an enlightened soul, even though he engages in material activities, because he knows the truth of the Absolute, and his mind is fixed on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation, please repeat. The influence of material nature cannot harm an individual soul, even though he engages in material activities, because he knows the truth of the Absolute, and his mind is fixed on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Lord Kapila says that mayi mānasam, a devotee whose mind is always fixed on the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called Ātmārāma, or vidita-tattva. Ātmārāma means one who rejoices in the self, or one who enjoys in spiritual atmosphere. Ātma, in the material sense, means the body or the mind. But when referring to one whose mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, Ātmārāma means one who is fixed in spiritual activities in relationship with the Supreme Soul. The Supreme Soul is the personality of Godhead, and the individual soul is a living entity. When they engage in reciprocation of service and benediction, the living entity is said to be in the Ātmārāma position. This Ātmārāma position can be attained by one who knows the truth as it is. The truth is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the enjoyer, and the living entities are meant for his service and enjoyment. One who knows this truth and who tries to engage all resources in the service of the Lord escapes all material reactions and influences of modes of material nature. An example may be cited in this connection. Just as a materialist engages in constructing a big skyscraper, a devotee engages in constructing a big temple for Vishnu. Superficially, the skyscraper constructor and the temple constructor are on the same level, but both are collecting wood, stone, iron, and other building materials. But the person who constructs a skyscraper is a materialist, and the person who constructs the temple of Vishnu is Ātmārāma. The materialist tries to satisfy himself in relation to his body by constructing a skyscraper. But the devotee tries to satisfy a super self, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by constructing the temple. Although both are engaged in the association of material activities, the devotee is liberated and the materialist is conditioned. This is because the devotee who is constructing the temple has fixed his mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the materialist who is constructing the skyscraper has his mind fixed in sense gratification. If while performing any activity, even in material existence, one mind is fixed upon the lotus feet of the Personality of Godhead, one will not be entangled or conditioned. The worker in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness is always independent of the situation of material nature. Evaṁ vidita-tattvasya prakṛtiḥ mayi mānasam yuñjato apakuruta ātmārāmasya karhicit. The influence of material nature cannot harm an enlightened soul, even though he engages in material activities, because he knows the truth of the Absolute, and his mind is fixed on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om ajnana timirandasya gyananjana shalakaya chaksurun militam jena tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Chaitanya Pistam Sapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadandigam Adadana Srirandantai Vridam Yache Puna Puna Srimad Rupa Padambujo Dulisyam Janma Janmani. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Panchakalpatrubhyascha kripasindhuvevacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So I believe it's in the introduction to Bhagavatam. Prabhupada also mentions this, that they see us moving in the paper markets, in the ink markets, and the printing shops, just like the materialist. But our aim is different. Our aim is to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And their aim is to enjoy sense gratification. So here Lord Kapila is explaining that even if one engages in so-called material activities, but he's fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna and dedicated everything to Krishna and offers everything to Krishna, then he's completely liberated from any reaction of this material world. It may appear the same, as Prabhupada gives the example here of someone building a skyscraper. That is, he's building it for his sense gratification. And we see all over the world everyone trying to build a bigger one and a bigger one, and Dubai has the biggest, but the Saudi Arabia is coming up with a bigger one, or somebody's coming up with a bigger one. Always bigger and bigger to show out, yes, I'm great. For sense gratification. And we're also building a huge temple in Mayapur. But our purpose is to get people to learn about Krishna consciousness. Because we're hearing every day how this is the actual solution to the problems of this world. Just like we were talking about dreams yesterday. So in our dream, we may see a tiger's coming after us. Now the solution is not to find a tiger gun, the solution is to wake up. There's no tiger. If I run around in the dream looking for a tiger gun to shoot the tiger, then what does he use? If I simply wake up, everything is, there's no tiger, there's no danger, there's no nothing. So, as long as we engage everything for the service of the Lord, then even, Bhakti Yoga is the most sublime yoga, because everything we do becomes spiritualized. Just like everybody likes to dance, I don't know what the latest dance is. Last thing I heard was something about break dancing or something. Don't do break dance. Come here in the temple and do the Swami step in front of Sri Sri Gaurnitai and Sri Sri Radha Rukmini Dwarkadish and Lord Jagannath. Everybody likes to sing, but you give up singing all these nonsense songs. You sing this beautiful Hare Krishna mantra. You sing these beautiful bhajans of Narottam Das Thakur, Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Everyone likes to eat, so you cook nice things and offer them first to Krishna. Every activity. We want to raise a family. Yes, so you raise a family to bring up that child, just like we see today, our, what is his name, Rupa Nuga Bhakta. he was trying to get his little grandson to bow down before I'm so-called saintly person. He was hesitant to do it because he probably recognized that I'm just bluffing. But anyway, we see that, especially in India, they try to train the children how to bow down before saintly people. Prabhupada over and over stressed that one should not become father or mother unless he can deliver his dependent from the cycle of birth and death. So we want to have family. You can have family life in Krishna, everything. But just make Krishna the center. Just like one time, one fellow came to visit a very pious gentleman. And he got there to his house. He says, "Oh, you have such a wonderful house." "No, yes, prakṛtir. This is Krishna's house." And he said, "You have such a devoted wife." "No, she's also Krishna's." "Your children are so obedient." "Oh no, they're also Krishna's." And he showed him the whole house. And yes. And then there was a room, and there was this little Didi there holding a little laddu. And his friend said, "What is that?" He said, "He's mine." Everything else is Krishna, but this fellow here, he's mine. This is our real attitude. We should see that Krishna, everything belongs to Krishna. And we can utilize even so-called material things in Krishna's service. Just like some people are attracting to do business, so you can do business. And just like our wonderful godbrother Ambarish, he's dedicated so many millions of dollars to build this beautiful temple in Mayapur. So even our business becomes yoga. Everything becomes yoga. This is the glory of Bhakti Yoga. Just like coming here to Los Angeles, so many memories are coming. Because practically I grew up, really started my Krishna consciousness from here. I joined in Boulder, but they sent me here to get trained up. And I can remember one time, I think we were on our way from Boulder to go to Rath Yatra in San Francisco, but we knew that Prabhupada was here in LA. So we came to LA first. And that particular day, some young fellow, he lived in Arizona someplace. At that time there was no temple there. But somehow in LAX he got a book. He started reading the book. He wrote to, I guess Ranadir was there at that time. He wrote to him, and he sent him more books. He sent him japa beads and told him how to chant japa. Eventually told him how to offer his food. So he was doing everything all by himself, alone there in Arizona. And then Ranadir wrote that, "Oh, Prabhupada's coming to LA, you should try to come." So he came, and he went on the morning walk. We invited him, "Oh, you please come on the morning walk with Srila Prabhupada. We're going down to Venice Beach." So Prabhupada was walking on Venice Beach, and we were all running along. We were amazed. Prabhupada was, even I'm amazed. Because one time, one of the royal family in England, they told the temple president of the manor that you will not appreciate what your Guru Maharaj has done until you reach 70 years old. And I'm just amazed, because I watched Prabhupada come off of a huge flight from Hawaii to here. That time, this was the lecture hall. And Prabhupada came here and gave a whole lecture. Just came off the flight. I've been sleeping for 2 days trying to get over it. We're just amazed at what Prabhupada did. So anyway, that boy came on the morning walk with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was walking along, and we were running. He was beyond 70, and we were all young men, but we were like little puppy dogs running behind him. So at some point that boy spoke up and he said, "Srila Prabhupada, I read in your books that wherever a pure devotee stays, then all material enjoyment goes away." And Prabhupada stopped and he dug his cane into the sand and he turned around to see who was speaking. And he said, "We do not say do not enjoy. You were not in the kirtan this morning? Oh yes, Prabhupada. That was not enjoyable? Oh yes, Prabhupada, that was very enjoyable. You were not in the class discussing the philosophy of your Krishna consciousness? Oh yes, Prabhupada. Yes, that was not enjoyable? Oh yes, Prabhupada, that was very enjoyable. He said, yes, this is enjoyment like a human being. And this drink all night and dance in the disco club, this is enjoyment? He said, oh no, Prabhupada, no, that is enjoyment like cat and dog. So we do not say do not enjoy, we say you enjoy like a human being. Huh? You give up this lower enjoyment, you enjoy like a human being. Kirtan is enjoyable. This is just like, I forget whose song is that? The Kevalananda Kanda, this Krishna consciousness. Simply joyful. Even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said it's joyfully performed. Everything about it is so nice. You can sing for Krishna, you can dance for Krishna, you can paint for Krishna, you can raise children for Krishna, you can do business for Krishna, you can do the puja for Krishna. You simply add Krishna. Just like we see, Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all the Vedic literature. We see that Krishna didn't go to some yogi or some sadhu living in the forest and speak Bhagavad Gita to him. He didn't even go to a Brahmin. He went to a Kshatriya. A Kshatriya means he's so busy we can't even imagine. You can ask Svavas, all the trouble he has to go through just to run tiny little temple here in LA. You can imagine running a whole country, you know, how busy. And this is the person he spoke Bhagavad Gita to. To a Kshatriya who's running the whole country. And Krishna never told Arjuna that you give up everything and go to the woods or you go to the mountains. He told him, whatever you do for me. Mama nusmara yuñjata. Fight. Yuja means fight. So Kshatriyas, their business is fighting. But he said, Mama nusmara. You always remember me. You always remember me. Mama nusmara yuñjata. This is the point. If we're always fixed on Krishna, even if we're fighting a battle, we're fixed on Krishna. Arjuna was fighting in a big battle. It's not that Arjuna was meditating on Ras Leela. Oh, Krishna is dancing with the gopis, and the birds are singing, and the flowers are blooming, and beautiful smell is coming. He was fighting. Where did he have time to think about these things? But Krishna said, you just remember me and you fight. You do your duty. So this is the beauty of Bhakti Yoga, that we take whatever it is that we do and we dovetail it with Krishna. Just like so many beautiful paintings here, somebody's dovetailed their talent for painting all these wonderful paintings. Just like one time I was president of Portland, Oregon, and I came down to LA one time, and the great Chaitanya Charitamrita marathon was going on. And they had to produce, I can't remember how many volumes, and 17 volumes in 2 months. And so they had, all the artists, and somebody would do backgrounds, who was ever expert at background, somebody who was expert in details, did details. They had it whole planned out. And I was walking down the street, and Janarani was here at that time, and she grabbed me and said, hey, you, come here, we need you. Because they wanted somebody to pose for their paintings, because it's easier if you have somebody who's doing the activity, and then it's easier to, and much faster. And they had, 17 volumes to do. So she just grabbed me, and so then there was the pastime of Mahaprabhu coming to Nandagam and coming inside the cave and seeing big Nanda Baba and little dainty Mother Yasoda and this little gwal in between. And Mahaprabhu began to caress the body of Gopal. So that's me posing there. And then there was the Buddhist who brought the contaminated eatables, and the eagle dropped on his head. That was me. The old man with the cane behind going, that was me. I think it was, it was Gadadhar Pandit wanted to go with Mahaprabhu. He's going to Vrindavan. And he got all the way up to the border of Orissa, and Mahaprabhu got on the boat and sent him back. Said, no, you've taken Chaitra sannyas, you go back. So Mahaprabhu pointing like that was me. Gadadhar Pandit fainting. I had to faint many times. Radharani wasn't satisfied. Many times I had to. That was me. Anyway, this was my tiny, tiny little part in the great Chaitanya Charitamrita marathon. After a while, somebody said, this is Temple President of Portland. You know that, Mataji? And she said, oh, sorry, Prabhu. I said, no, I'm very happy that I got to take part in the Great Chaitanya Charitamrita Marathon. So they were all engaging their talents in printing and painting and everything for Krishna. This spiritualizes everything. It appears to be material, but any activity that's done in Krishna consciousness is totally spiritual and will not entangle one in this material world. I remember I ran into the devotees in Boulder, and first devotee I met was Bhavananda, and he was very expert preacher. He knew exactly where he was at. He preached so wonderfully, and he was saying, as long as you're engaged in Krishna's service, there's no reaction. But as soon as you go out that door, then the web of karma begins to tie you up. And I was afraid to walk out the door. Of course, I learned that Krishna consciousness was very joyful. Because I'd already seen that this material world, everything gets dull after a time, I had so many friends. I'm tired of acid, man. I'm going to try smack, And everything gets dull. And Bhavananda was preaching on that point. He said, in the material world, everything gets dull. Just like when I was a little kid, there was that advertisement for cigarettes, smoking more, enjoying less, smoking more, enjoying less. Come up to cool. Prabhupada said it is fire, and he's saying cool. But smoking more, enjoying less. So he said, but in the spiritual world, everything is always increasing. He said, sight is always increasing. He would go like that, because he knew exactly where I was at, and I would just rush, I said, taste is always heightening. Sound is always heightening. Touch is always heightening. And I go like that, and I go, and taste is always heightening, and I was just amazed. And then finally, it was Jamastami day. I came to they didn't even have a temple. They were just staying with some hippie boys outside of Boulder until they could find a place to rent. And they made this wonderful feast somehow or another. And I was amazed, because I was a cook. And those days, there wasn't so many rules and regulations. So even me, with I had hair all over the place, everything. I got to help in the kitchen, cutting up and cleaning and doing things. And I watched them. They had something, this yellowish, golden yellow liquid I had never seen ghee ever before in my life. And they rolled out these pieces of dough as flat as a piece of paper. And they dropped them in that golden ghee, and boop, it blew up like a balloon. I said, wow, this is magic cooking, And then they had something called poppers. They heated up this mustard oil, and they had this little wafer, and they dropped it in the mustard oil, and it went brrr, like that. Wow, And those days there wasn't, so many Indian stores. It's not that you went to the Indian store and bought some besan flour to make your pakoras. You had to grind the chickpeas yourself. So that was my service they gave me to do in the kitchen. And you make it very loose. We had this old, cast iron grinder. We make it loose, and it would come out, it would break it up. Then you'd tighten it up and then put it through again, and it would come out like gravel, and then like coarse sand, and then like sand. They put it really, and I was understanding this. You have to give your energy to Krishna. I said, whatever they're going to make with this, Krishna is really going to like it. I'm putting all my energy into it. So finally, I never fasted before till midnight. And finally, we had artik, and then there was a feast, and there was this thing sitting on the plate. Everything was so wonderful. And there was this big brown sweet. And in those days, the law was that when you made gulab jamans, they had to soak for 3 days before you offered them to Krishna. So this was a heavy-duty gulab jamun. And Bhavananda said, you know how to eat that? And I said, nope. And he took that gulab jamun, threw it in his mouth, And I said, well, if he can do it, I can do it. So I picked up my gulab jamun, I threw it in the mouth, and I thought, well, I made it. I'm in the spiritual world. I didn't think it was ever going to end. And they says, all spiritual food, we can't waste any, take more, take more. I was so intoxicated with prasadam and so forth. I was thinking, half of my brain was saying, boy, you can't move, I can't move. The other half said, yeah, well, if you could move, where will you go? You stay here chanting, dancing, and feasting, and the absolute truth is revealed to you, and you walk out that door, and you're wrapped up in the laws of karma again. I said, it's not even a question of choosing to become a devotee. It's no choice. It's not going to become a devotee. So somehow they keep feeding me those wonderful things, and I'm still here. So we don't say not to enjoy, but we say you enjoy like a human being. You dovetail everything for Krishna. And I was already a cook, so that was one of my first services. I became a cook, and way back in 1970, I guess it was Nanda on the East Coast, and it was Dina-bandhu on the West Coast. I remember Vishnu Jan Swami came to Portland, and he said, I was just hoping that Dina-bandhu's in the kitchen. Because I've been to so many temples. I've been to 32 temples so far, and this is the first temple that has nice prasadam. Then I trained my wife how to cook, and she became better cook than me. So this is Krishna consciousness. Looks like we're doing the same thing. We're cooking, and somebody may say, just Prabhupada said, they may challenge, you cut up the fruit. We're eating the fruit whole. You're cutting it up in pieces. It is the same, but it is different. We've offered it to Krishna. I remember there was one devotee when I went to take over temple president in Portland. One devotee came to help, and he was staying with his wife's grandmother till they found a place of their own. And she was, wasn't particularly religious, just a regular old American karmi lady. And but they made a little altar in her living room, and they'd offer everything, and they'd always give Granny some prasadam. And they came home one day, and she was on the phone, and to one of her old lady friends. And you know, Mabel, food even tastes better when it's offered to Krishna. Oh, I remember we were telling about how we came here. Oh, this is we came here on our way to Rath Yatra. And that was the first day. The temple room was over there where the Fate Museum is now. And that morning, Prabhupada had ordered that that beautiful Brahma Samhita prayers had just come. And Prabhupada ordered it, Darshanartik, we should play that. I don't remember. What did we do before there was two Govinda prayers? I can't remember. When I joined, there wasn't even Mangal Artik, maybe for the pujaris, but we got up at 6 o'clock in the morning. There's no such thing as Mangal Artik. That came later. So I remember what we did, but anyway, and Prabhupada used to come in. There was a door here from his quarters upstairs. He would come in the back door of the temple room. He'd walk up, pay his basins to Gornitai. There was a pillar with Charnamrit on, table on top, and he would take Charnamrit, and he would pay the basins to, that time, just the little Radha Krishna. These are the first Radha Krishna deities that I ever worshipped. Little Radha Krishna was here, then he paid basin to Jagannath. Then he came and he sat down on his Vyasasan, and he began singing along with the album. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. And then we looked, and from Prabhupada's eyes, tears were just flowing down his cheeks. And we all just wanted to, peel up the tiles and crawl underneath. Who are we to be in presence of pure devotee when he's experiencing symptoms of ecstasy? We wanted to, hide somewhere. And Prabhupada tears were coming. And then it ended. And that time in Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada was teaching us Isopanishad mantras. So all of a sudden, Prabhupada just, I can't do it. He made this big snort into the microphone, and rubbed his face and began chanting, Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Evavashishyate. And Prabhupada was rocking back and forth, and his voice was so deep. I just felt like he was a sea captain, and we're on a boat crossing over this material nature, this ocean of Kali, and our captain is Srila Prabhupada. Just, Isha Vasham Hidam Sarvam. Prabhupada was teaching us all these Upanishads. Anyway, so many wonderful memories coming back from here in New Dwarka with Prabhupada. I can remember he used to have a basket of flowers, and he would hand a flower to you, and you handed a flower to Prabhupada, and he put it in the basket, and he'd take another one out and he'd give it to you. Every day, as he would come, he would, so many wonderful memories. Prabhupada here. There's one memory. That devotee is no longer in the movement. He's my Facebook friend. But, you remember Mohanananda? Red Sikha Mohanananda. Because in very, very old days, nobody went on the morning walk. Prabhupada would go on his morning walk, but only the servant would come with him. So Mahananda would drive him down to Venice Beach, and they would walk. And they were walking, and this Prabhupada had a bright orange sannyas robes on, and the sun was coming up over on the eastern side, over the hills, and was bright orange. And he just felt Prabhupada and the sun have made a pact together to bring light into the world. And it just felt like that. And they're walking. Then they saw some Hollywood personality standing there watching the sunrise. And suddenly one of the men recognized Prabhupada. And he said, Swamiji, you remember me, Swamiji? Ernie Kovacs. I let you be on my show, And Prabhupada said, no. Swamiji, take away the mustache. I didn't have a mustache that time. He said, I let you be on my show, And everybody knows Prabhupada was on the Ernie Kovacs show. Everybody knows. And Prabhupada said, I do not remember. And then he looked at Mohanananda and said, do you remember? And Mohanananda thought, well, if Prabhupada didn't remember, I don't remember. He said, no, Swami, no, Prabhupada, I don't remember. And his false ego just went, So Prabhupada realized he just deflated his ego, and he said, I come here every morning. It's very nice to walk here. Do you come? He said, yeah, sometimes we come to watch the sunrise. And Prabhupada walked on, left the poor guy with his deflated ego. So I don't think this is on any Prabhupada memories, but Mohanananda told me this story. Anyway, I guess it's time we should put our voice to rest and ask if anybody has any questions or comments. Yes. The first one that comes to my mind was that time temple room was over there, and Prabhupada's Vyasa-san was in the very back. But I always made sure I was, right up as close as I could possibly be to that Vyasa-san. And Prabhupada was getting ready to lecture, and then he pointed it like this to me. And I looked, and I thought, what? Maybe my dhoti was open or something, and I fixed my dhoti, and I looked, and I stopped like this, and Prabhupada went like that. So I just froze in that position. And even when I was younger, it was still, somehow my legs were built, it's just hard for me to sit cross-legged. So after a while, during the lecture, devotees have this bad habit of going like this, So I started doing that. Because that was what Prabhupada was pointing at, I was looking, I couldn't see anything, All of a sudden, in the middle of the lecture, I should go through the database and find it, Prabhupada pointed at me and said, don't do that. Nothing more distracting. You're trying to give a lecture and somebody is going like this. He said, don't do that. So that was my one of my first personal interactions with Prabhupada. Of course, the nicest one was Mahanananda and I, we went to Dallas and started the Dallas temple. So then we came back to get initiated. Second initiation. I got first initiation in La Cienega Boulevard, but second initiation was here. And my wife, she got first and second at the same time. And after the fire sacrifice and everything, we came. We were sitting here, and this was a sanctuary at that time. And Prabhupada's room was upstairs, and so we were. Nandu Kumar came out, just left his body just about a month ago. My dear godbrother Nandu Kumar, and he came down. He said, "You come one by one." And we were sitting there. Then he came back down. He said, "Prabhupada has something very important to do. He has to go to the bank. You come back at noon." So we came back at noon. He said, "Prabhupada's still busy. You come back at 5 o'clock. But our ride was going back at 2 o'clock. And I said, "But our ride is going at 2 o'clock. So he went upstairs and he came back down. He said, "Prabhupada said, you can come up." So me and my wife, Akuti, we walked up the stairs and we came into Prabhupada's room. And we had these, at that time in front of the apartments buildings, there was a bush called hydrangea. They're little, they're not so little, but small flowers like this, but they're sort of bluish and all different colored shades of blue, and there's a whole bunch of them like big balls. So we had these big balls of hydrangeas. So we came into Prabhupada's room, and he was sitting behind this big wooden desk, and we offered these flowers to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, "Thank you." And then he motioned for us to come on the right side of his desk. And Prabhupada was sitting on this big cushion, and we were down below looking up. He looked like a little cowherd boy sitting there, And so then he motioned for me to take off my kurta. We're coming for Brahman initiation. You should think, but we're Westerners. We don't know these things, I never had seen a Brahman initiation before. So in front of my spiritual master, I'm pulling off my kurta. I felt like a fool. And then Prabhupada told us how to chant, and then he gave us pieces of paper. And still when I'm chanting, I just meditate on Prabhupada's voice, singing, reciting all the Gayatri mantras for us. And then I never, this is what Prabhupada had to deal with. I never wore a Brahmin thread before, so I didn't know whether I was supposed to put this arm or put this arm. And first of all, Prabhupada took the thread and he went, and he untied it like that. Because they all come, folded up in a special way. And even today, sometimes I'm trying to get it apart and it just gets so tangled, I said, forget it, can you get another one? But Prabhupada just went bloop, 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 like that. And he had the Brahman thread, and I didn't know whether to put this arm or this arm, so Prabhupada put it like a garland. Prabhupada had to deal with it. So he put it like a garland. He said, you can learn from your older godbrothers how to wear it. So then we offered some dakshina to Prabhupada, and with a big smile he accepted it. And he said, now you just prosecute this Krishna consciousness very enthusiastically as husband and wife. And that's practically what we did. I was always temple president, she was the head cook and unofficial temple commander, and our whole life was like that. Prabhupada said, you just prosecute this very enthusiastically as husband and wife. And then I got my kurta and I started out of the room, and then I realized in Nectar Devotion it said, one should not fail to offer some praise in front of the spiritual master. I said, my God, I didn't say anything. And Prabhupada was already busy on his desk, and I said, what can I do? What can I do? And I finally got backed up to the door. I got to the door, and I said, Jai Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada looked up from the desk with one of those smiles, like 1,000,000 suns have risen in the sky. He said, Hare Krishna. So that was the most nectarine personal exchange I had with Prabhupada. Yes.
I remember meeting you for the first time in 1975. And it was at Rath Yatra, San Francisco. And all the temples we had a big hall where everybody was staying.
Yeah.
And one day you were cooking. Remember they used to have a little cook area there?
Yeah.
and you were cooking, and you did one of your famous chances. And the chants was so heavy that everybody in the hall was coughing. And everybody's saying, "Who's the cook? Who's the cook?" And they were saying, "It's Dina-bandhu Prabhu." He said, "Wow, he's heavy duty."
Yeah, we were.
So it was nice. I mean, everybody enjoyed it. But do you remember that you were cooking?
I remember. I don't know if it was 7. It was probably earlier. There was one feast where Jayananda came and he put his arm around me and said, "Prabhu, we got to make a feast for 30,000 people." So I cooked all, and they had this steamer, you could put, 50 pounds of potatoes on one side and 50 pounds of cauliflower on the other side, and you closed it up and it just steamed it in a few minutes, and then there was a big, huge pot like this with, with also steamer, had this double-walled steel jacket, the steam circulating. You threw everything in there and all the tomatoes and the spices. And I was cooking all night, and by morning time, I myself was cooked. Yes. No. Later, after we got to Dallas, then Mohanananda wanted, because we were just starting the temple, he wanted more devotees. So the easiest way to, to get devotees was to get me married. He said, "What do you think you are? You think you're Bhaktisiddhanta or something? You think you're Vishnu John Swami? Come on, everyone gets married. I'm married, Satsvarup's married, this one's married, that one's married, we're all married, Dina-bandhu." Yes.
Hare Krishna. Dina-bandhu Prabhu, do you have some personal instruction from Srila Prabhupada?
That was my personal instruction. Just execute this Krishna consciousness very enthusiastically as husband and wife. So like I said, I was always the president, she was the head cook and unofficial temple commander, and we spread our Krishna consciousness like that. I was the one that Prabhupada wrote the letter. He said, even if they just touch our books, they'll be benefited. So I read that letter out in the morning, and then, there was one devotee, I don't know if anybody remembers Anubhavananda. Anyway, he tried to sell a book to some. We would give incense, and then we get donation for the incense, and then we give a book, And the guy said, "No, I just want the incense. I don't need your book, And so he said, "Well, touch it." Touch it, all right. So he touched it. He took 3 or 4 steps. He turned around and came back. "All right, give me that book." My main service in Vrindavan is to make sure that nobody ever forgets Vrindavan. Devotees come and I show them all the places where Krishna, we tell so many pastimes, but we can go to those places and see where Krishna did them and hear about them. That way nobody will ever forget Vrindavan.
Performing that service.
Well, I've been in Vrindavan for 40, so almost 40. My Prikrama Guru was Padmalocha, and he trained me up. And Dhruva Maharaj. They're my Prikrama. This evening, yes.
Yeah, so Dina-bandhu Prabhu will be at 5 p.m. at Vidyavali's place. The address here is 3666 Watsika, apartment number 7, starting at 5:30 p.m. So all are welcome to come. There'll be kirtan, katha, and prasadam. So please come. Everyone's invited to come.
And you're all invited to come visit Vrindavan.
Also, Dina-bandhu Prabhu has come up with a new book. It's on Govardhan after a research of 7-8 years. So this is a photo book, and unfortunately we don't have any copies here, but it is available on Amazon, on Kindle and paperback, hardcover, whatever you want. But you can take a look at the book. It's a 530-page full photo book. All the places of Govardhan that we don't get to see when we do a parikrama is mentioned here, and the connected pastimes from all the scriptures and Goswami literatures. So he worked very hard. I was a part of this book with him, so I got to be do a little bit of service. So please check it out on Amazon. Hare Krishna.
Rajlila, Giriraj, the king of mountains.
Yeah, Vrajalila,
Part 3.
Giriraj, the king of mountains.
Rajlila, part 3. Okay, so we'll put our voice to rest here, and we'll all fall down at the very soft and wonderful lotus feet of that great personality who's shown us how to enjoy like a human being. Srila Prabhupada ki.